If you've ever found yourself just scrolling through property listings, maybe picturing a life where your biggest chore is just, reapplying sunscreen,
Hmm.
then the dream of owning a piece of paradise in Phuket, Thailand, is probably very, very real. You see the white sand, the turquoise water, and you think, wow, lucrative rental income. It sounds completely irresistible.
It absolutely is an incredible destination, but that irresistible feeling, that's exactly where the risk is.
Mm.
The reality is that so many people buy with their emotions, not logically, they jump in without understanding the very specific and sometimes, well, counterintuitive rules of the game in Thailand.
And that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. Our mission today is to cut through all that sunshine and really distill the critical knowledge you need to turn that tropical dream into a headache-free reality. We've pulled our insights directly from Ocean Worldwide. They're a luxury real estate agency that's been based in Phuket since 2004. Their director, Sandra O'Neill, she's helped thousands of investors and families, and believe me, she has seen every single way this can go wrong.
Exactly. We've basically synthesized her experience into 7 essential safety checks for foreign buyers. And these fall into, let's say, 3 broad themes: avoiding the legal traps, budgeting for the financial shock, and securing proper long-term management.
And if you skip any of these,
That dream quickly becomes a very, very expensive burden.
okay, let's unpack this immediately. Let's start with the single most important rule you have to know: the legal landscape.
Yeah.
This is where most people trip up, right?
Yeah.
Because they assume Thai property law is going to somehow resemble the system back home.
Spoiler alert, it does not.
So what is that foundational, non-negotiable law that dictates every single transaction?
The biggest one is crystal clear. Foreigners, as individuals, cannot buy land outright in Thailand. Full stop. This isn't some loophole you can get around. It's a constitutional distinction. Understanding that single fact dictates everything, whether you buy a condo or a villa, and exactly how you structure that purchase.
Okay, so if direct land ownership is out, what are the legitimate paths for a foreign investor?
For apartments and condos, the path is actually pretty straightforward. It's called condominium ownership. This gives you direct freehold ownership of the apartment unit itself.
But there's a catch.
Oh, there is a massive restriction. It is strictly subject to the 49% foreign ownership quota within that specific building. If 51% of that building is already held by Thai nationals, you cannot legally get a freehold title.
That sounds manageable, though. You just check the quota before you commit.
Mm.
But the source material warns very strongly against dodgy characters and intermediaries. Why is that?
Because the laws around land are so complex, you get less reputable people trying to offer these shortcuts. They might suggest using a middleman to secure ownership of something that should be simple freehold.
I see.
Sandra O'Neill and her team stress this point. If you meet that 49% condo quota, your ownership is a legal right. It's registered directly with the land department. You do not need a middleman for a standard condo purchase. If someone suggests it, that is a massive red flag.
Okay, so condos are clear, but, they're limited. What about the high-stakes options? The dream of owning a standalone villa or a house with its own plot of land? What are the alternatives there?
Right. Now you're entering the zone of complexity. The first alternative is leasehold. This means you lease both the land and the structure for a set period, and that's typically 30 years.
When you say leasehold, I immediately think renting, but just for a really long time. What happens when those 3 decades are up?
And that is the critical uncertainty. These leases often contain options to renew for another 2 30-year terms, so it totals 90 years. But, and this is a big but, when legal advisors say the enforceability of those renewal options can be a gray area, they mean there's real potential for legal challenges down the road.
So your long-term security isn't guaranteed.
Exactly. You absolutely must have that lease contract reviewed forensically by a lawyer to make sure your security isn't just based on hope.
Okay, so what about the second route? Thai company ownership. This sounds like the one most investors use to get more control over the land. But that also carries some serious legal baggage, doesn't it?
It carries the most significant risk if it's done incorrectly. To use a company structure to hold the land, the entity has to be a genuine business. It has to be engaged in legitimate commercial activity. It absolutely cannot be a shell company created just to get around the land ownership laws.
And what's the critical rule here?
The critical rule is that Thai nationals must hold at least 51% of the shares.
Wait a second. 51% held by Thai nationals. If I'm the foreign investor putting up 100% of the money, that sounds like I'm giving away control from day one.
And that's the tension. You need control, but the law requires majority tie shareholding. And the law also strictly mandates that those tie shareholders have to be properly involved. They can't be nominee shareholders who just sign some paperwork and disappear.
Which is what a lot of people try to do.
It's the practice that has landed so many foreign investors in very hot water. If the government investigates and finds out you've used nominees, you jeopardize the entire investment. They can deem the land holding illegal, force a sale, or even confiscate it.
Wow.
But Sandra O'Neill emphasizes something really important here. The law is designed to protect legitimate business. It's not just a hurdle to block you. It's a structure to ensure foreign investment genuinely benefits the Thai economy. You have to commit to doing it right.
That clarification really changes how I see that 51% rule. Okay, before we leave the legal side, you mentioned a financial quirk tied to the transfer process.
Yes, a quick hidden tip. In Thailand, the seller traditionally pays the estate agent's fee. If you, the buyer, are asked to pay that fee upfront or separately, that is immediately suspicious. You need to clarify that charge instantly.
Good to know. And speaking of unexpected financial traps, let's move on to the mandatory homework phase. Mistake number 2, failing to conduct due diligence. After hearing all that, I would assume due diligence is the most essential thing.
It's the absolute foundation of asset protection. It's not optional. It's like checking if the ground is stable before you build your house.
So what's step 1?
A legal professional has to verify the official title deeds. Are they genuine? Does the seller actually have the legal right to sell? These are surprisingly common issues in a fast-moving market.
And beyond the paper trail, you also need to check if the property has any kind of financial anchor dragging it down.
Correct. We call that the encumbrance check. You need a lawyer to investigate for any mortgages, liens, or other claims against the property.
For our listener, can you explain what a lien is in simple terms?
Sure. Think of it as a pre-existing financial claim. If the seller owes a bank money and that property is the collateral, the bank has a lien on it. If you buy it without clearing that encumbrance, you might suddenly become responsible for the seller's debt. This check ensures you're buying a clean slate.
I see. And compliance has to be part of this homework too.
Absolutely. You have to confirm that all building permits and regulations have been met. This is especially critical for villas or properties with extensions. You do not want to buy a beautiful new wing only to find out it's illegal and risks demolition.
That makes perfect sense. So we verify the property, now we have to pay for it. Which brings us to mistake number 3. Not budgeting for all the additional costs. I think everyone falls in love with the listing price and they just stop counting there.
This is where people get hit with a serious financial shockwave right at closing. Our sources suggest a really reliable rule of thumb. You should budget 10 to 15% on top of the advertised property price.
10 to 15%, that is a huge margin. Where does the bulk of that go?
A major portion goes straight to the government. The government transfer fees and taxes can easily add up to around 6% of the declared property value.
Let's put that in perspective.
Yeah.
On a modest $500,000 villa, that's $30,000 just in fees and taxes.
Exactly. Before you've even paid your lawyer or bought a single piece of furniture, it can be a 6-figure surprise for high-end properties. Then you have to factor in legal fees, company setup, and annual maintenance costs if you go that route. It all adds up.
And we often forget the silent killer of international deals: currency volatility.
Absolutely. If you're paying in a foreign currency, a small shift in the Thai baht exchange rate between signing the agreement and closing the deal can drastically increase your total purchase price overnight. A financial planner is essential here.
So we've covered the legal setup and the initial costs. Now we jump into the post-purchase phase, which, if you plan to rent, demands just as much attention. Mistake number 4, underestimating property management.
This is so critical, especially if you aren't living there full time. In a tropical environment like Phuket, things deteriorate incredibly fast. Humidity causes rot, the jungle is always trying to reclaim the land, and constant tenant turnover means maintenance issues are frequent. A good property manager is your eyes and ears on the ground. They stop minor neglect from becoming a major, expensive repair.
I could just imagine trying to handle a burst pipe during monsoon season from thousands of miles away. It sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It is. A reputable manager handles everything. Tenant sourcing and screening, rent collection, managing all emergency maintenance and repairs. They're the ones who get the call about the leaky tap at 3 a.m. Their fees are an investment in peace of mind, not an expense to be avoided.
And protecting that asset brings us to mistake number 5, not securing adequate insurance coverage. When we talk about tropical climates, we are talking about real, significant risk.
We are. Local risks are specific, and they can be severe. Phuket gets heavy monsoon rains that frequently cause flooding, along with strong winds during storm season. If you skip insurance, you're leaving a $500,000 asset completely exposed.
So what are the absolutely vital policies a buyer needs to have?
You need a trifecta of coverage. First, robust building and contents insurance, and it must explicitly cover fire, flood, and storm damage. Second, if you're renting, you need public liability insurance to protect you against legal claims if a guest gets injured.
And that third one is essential for any investor relying on cash flow, right?
Exactly. It's rental income protection. If a major storm makes your property uninhabitable for 6 months, this policy covers that lost income. It saves your investment's cash flow during a crisis.
Okay, now let's look beyond the immediate risks. Mistake number 6, failing to plan for the long term. Property ownership is a multi-decade commitment, and I think the initial excitement can overshadow future planning.
That is absolutely right. You must consider estate planning. Given the complexities of international ownership and Thai inheritance laws, you need a solid plan for how the property will be passed on or liquidated if the unexpected happens. You don't want to leave your family with a legal and financial mess.
And planning for flexibility in your own life has to be part of that equation too.
Precisely. You have to ask, will this property still fit my needs in 10 years? You have to consider potential market shifts and your own personal shifts, retirement, health changes. The investment needs to stay flexible so it remains a source of pleasure, not a burden you can't unload.
And that brings us to the final overarching pitfall that ties all of this together. Mistake number 7, not seeking professional advice. We've heard it a few times. Trying to navigate this alone is a minefield.
Trying to DIY this process, thinking you'll save a few $1,000s on a lawyer, it is the single biggest mistake you can make. The only path to security is building the right team. You need a legal advisor first and foremost.
And the financial specialists are just as critical.
A financial planner is crucial for tax implications and currency strategies. Of course, a reputable real estate agent, like those at Ocean Worldwide for market insights, and a dedicated property manager if you're remote. Trying to cut corners here will inevitably cost you 10 times more down the line.
That's a 7-point safety checklist. But let's end on one final, very specific step that happens right at the start of a transaction, which your sources really emphasize: the reservation deposit.
Yes, this is your initial commitment. The reservation deposit is a relatively small payment you make to take the property off the market while you start your due diligence.
And a crucial part.
Crucially, the terms of this payment must be reviewed by your lawyer before you pay a single dollar.
Why is that prepayment review so vital?
Because your lawyer has to ensure the reservation agreement has clauses that protect your deposit. If your due diligence uncovers a deal breaker, an encumbrance, illegal permits, a problem with the title deed, that protection ensures your deposit is fully refundable. Otherwise, it could be lost immediately just because you signed a rushed agreement.
This has been an incredibly thorough deep dive. If we synthesize these 7 mistakes, the key takeaway really is that the biggest risk isn't the Phuket market itself. It's approaching it with assumptions based on your home country's laws.
Exactly.
Smart decisions based on mandatory homework and an expert team, that's the only path to success.
What really stands out to me is that the system, as complex as it is fundamentally set up to ensure informed, legitimate investment. Those legal complexities, like making sure a company's a genuine business, are there to protect the integrity of Thai ownership and commerce.
So it's not a barrier, but a guideline.
It's a guideline. By following the rules and seeking professional guidance, you change from being a hopeful dreamer into a confident, secure investor.
And that security only comes when you work with trusted professionals who've navigated these waters for years. All these insights, again, are drawn from the experience of Ocean Worldwide, the luxury real estate agency operating in Phuket since 2004, led by Sandra O'Neill.
If you are serious about making the dream of Phuket property ownership a successful reality, we strongly encourage you to start your research and connect with a trusted team. You can do that by visiting oceanwwp.com.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into property pitfalls. We'll see you next time.